I saved the life of a stranger and now he won't leave me alone. There was no other way. I had to give this man mouth to mouth or else he might not survive. It shouldn't be so hard. I mean, come on, I was 30 years old for God's sake. Yet the idea of putting my lips on this man's lips, his beautiful face, is making me giddy like a 13-year-old girl. Ugh, I hissed under my breath as I put my lips on his lips and started passing some air. At first, I thought it wasn't working, but then he started coughing violently. Here I thought I was all alone by the river early that morning doing my usual Tai Chi routine when out of nowhere I saw a lean figure falling down the bridge, hitting the surface of the river with a loud splash. I was stunned for a few seconds, but was quickly snapped back to reality of the struggling voices of the man who had just fallen. Without a second thought, I sprinted towards the riverbank. My feet slipped on the wet grass, but I kept going. When I reached the water, I didn't hesitate. I dove in, the cold water hitting me like a punch. I swam as hard as I could, my legs kicking and my arms pulling. The guy was barely keeping his head above water, and the current was strong, making it hard to get to him. "Hang on," I shouted, though I wasn't sure he could hear me over the rush of the river. I grabbed him under the arms, trying to keep both of us from getting swept away. And after what felt like an eternity, I finally reached the shallower part of the river and dragged him towards the bank. When we were finally out of the water, I pulled him onto the grass. He was unconscious, his body limp and cold. My heart was racing, and I knew I had to act fast. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. I quickly remembered the basics of CPR and got to work. I positioned him on his back and started chest compressions. I pushed down hard and fast, hoping it would be enough. I kept going, not stopping even though my arms were starting to ache. When none of it worked, I would think of nothing else but to give him mouth to mouth. After a few minutes of me trying to pass any sort of air to his lungs, he finally coughed. Water came spilling out of his mouth and he took some shaky breaths. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. He was breathing again, but he was still unconscious. He needed to be kept warm and dry. I quickly checked my surroundings, but there was no one nearby. I checked the man, but he had nothing on him except a couple of soaked dollars. With no other choice left, I lifted the man in my arms and took him to my place, which was not too far from here. Once at my place, I grabbed a blanket and covered him up, trying to keep him as comfortable as possible. I didn't have much, but I grabbed some towels and tried to dry him off. His clothes were soaked through, so I carefully took them off and put some dry clothes on him. As I did, I couldn't help but admire his build. He didn't have broad muscles like me, but I could tell he clearly did some form of workout. He was lean and his muscles were hard just in the places they should be. I snapped my attention back to the priority on hand, which was to make sure this man didn't catch a cold, so I made sure he was wrapped up well. Once his breathing confirmed that he was comfortable, I finally studied his face. It was a handsome face and had an almost childlike innocence on it. You can't help but want to protect it. As I looked at the soft features of his face, all I wondered was, who was he, and how did he fall? 3 days later, I was awoken by loud coughing and a loud shatter of glass falling in the middle of the night. I rushed to my guest's side. As I reached there, he stirred. His eyes fluttered open and he looked around, disoriented. I was right there and ready to help. "Hey," I said softly, "you're safe now. You were in the river. I brought you here because you needed help," I explained myself, as if guilty of kidnapping. He blinked a few times, trying to make sense of his surroundings. Where am I?" he asked weakly. I tried to explain the situation. "You were in the river and I pulled you out. You didn't have any ID on you, so I brought you to my place. You were unconscious for a while, but you're okay now." He seemed to process this, but then he looked at me with a puzzled expression. "Baby?" he said tentatively. I was taken aback. "What?" He seemed to struggle with recognition. "Jasper, where are we, baby?" I felt a jolt of confusion. "No, I don't know who Jasper is, but I'm Zhang. You're safe now, and you don't need to worry about yourself for now." He looked disappointed, but he still seemed convinced. "No, I'm sure. Jasper, it's me, Ashton, your boyfriend." "My what now?" I spoke as I looked at his face dumbstruck. Where in the 7 hells was I stuck? I didn't know how to handle this. It was clear he had some memory issues and he was clinging to this idea of me being someone named Jasper. I decided the best course of action was to get him to the hospital for a proper checkup. I needed to know what was going on and how to help him. Look, you need rest now. Please sleep, we'll talk later, I said to him as I left his room. Early in the morning, the next morning. I've examined your friend. He's physically fine, no signs of major injury from the drowning. His vital signs are stable. I let out a sigh of relief. That's good to hear, but he's been a bit confused. He keeps calling me Jasper and insists that I'm his boyfriend. The doctor nodded, looking thoughtfully. It sounds like he might be experiencing some memory loss. Drowning and the resulting trauma can sometimes cause this kind of issue. It's not uncommon for people to have gaps in their memory or even total amnesia after a near-death experience. I frowned, trying to wrap my head around this. So, you're saying he might not remember anything for a while? Exactly, the doctor replied. Memory loss from trauma can be temporary or sometimes long-lasting. It's hard to predict how long it will take for his memories to come back. In some cases, memories might come back gradually, or he might only remember certain things, the doctor said, giving me a reassuring smile, as if what he just said was reassuring in any way. Later that morning. Here you go, I said, trying to sound casual. Just some toast and fruit. He took the plate with a grateful smile, but his gaze didn't waver. Thanks, Jasper, he said softly. You always know how to take care of me. I almost dropped the orange I was holding. It was strange and unsettling to hear him talk like that. I'm not Jasper, I reminded him gently. My name is Zhang. I'm just helping you out right now. He looked at me with big sad eyes. I know, Jasper. I'm just glad you're here. I don't remember much, but I remember you. I wasn't sure how to respond. I finished making the coffee and sat down across from him, trying to focus on eating. But every few minutes, he would look up at me, reaching out to touch my hand or brush his fingers against mine. It felt overwhelming, and I wasn't sure how to handle his constant need for reassurance. 2 days later. It's been only 2 days since I took this man baby in my home, but honestly, it feels like I've been raising him since always. Do you need any help? He asked, his voice tinged with hope. I turned to him with a tired smile. You can just relax, I've got this. You should take it easy and rest. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. He grabbed a broom and started trying to sweep, though he was more of a hindrance than a help. He kept bumping into me and dropping the broom, looking apologetic each time. I'm sorry, Jasper, he said, looking up at me with those same hopeful eyes. I just want to be useful. I sighed and set the broom down. It's okay. I appreciate the effort, but you don't have to help. Just stay out of the way and rest for now. He looked a bit hurt, but nodded. As I continued working, he sat on the couch watching me closely. Every time I glanced over, he was looking at me as if I was the only man in the world. Honestly, it was both embarrassing and a bit frustrating, maybe because I always knew even though he was watching me, I wasn't the one he was looking at. 3 days later. This is nice, isn't it? He said, snuggling closer. Just us, like always. I was stiff and uncomfortable, unsure of how to respond. Yeah, it's nice, I said, trying to sound cheerful. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. I'm really glad we're together. I feel safe with you, Jasper. I don't know what I'd do without you. I tried to give a reassuring smile, but it felt forced. I'm here to help you, I said softly. We're going to get through this. He held on to me tighter, his grip firm but gentle. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. The way he spoke made my heart ache. I wanted to be supportive and understanding, but him constantly taking me for someone I was not was starting to wear me down. I could see how much he needed comfort, but it was hard to deal with his insistence on calling me Jasper and treating me as if we were a couple. As we sat there, I couldn't help but wonder how long this would go on. I hoped his memory would come back soon so that things could return to normal. I can't wait for him to leave me. About a week later. I said I'm not Jasper, I shouted as I threw the plate I was washing back in the sink. He looked hurt but continued to stay close. But you are my Jasper, he retorted in a small voice. I tried to stay patient, but the constant affection and confusion were wearing me down. I wasn't used to this level of emotional dependency, and it was starting to frustrate me. I felt like I was losing my own space and identity in all this. Finally, my frustration got the better of me. I snapped. Look, I'm not Jasper. I don't know who Jasper is, but I'm not him. You need to stop acting like we're a couple. You need to try to remember who you are and what's really going on. Just leave me alone for a while, okay? His face fell, and I saw the hurt in his eyes. But Jasper, No, I interrupted, my voice rising. I'm not Jasper. I've told you 100 times. You need to get it through your head. I'm trying to help you, but God, you're making it impossible. Just leave me alone. Without a word, he turned and ran out of the house. My heart sank. I knew I had gone too far, but I was overwhelmed and didn't know how else to deal with the situation. Guilt washed over me, and I instantly regretted my outburst. Wait, I shouted, but he was already gone. I rushed outside, hoping to find him. I searched the streets, calling his name, but he was nowhere to be found. The town was small, and I knew he couldn't have gone far, but I couldn't find him anywhere. Ashton, I yelled, my voice echoing through the empty streets. Where are you? There was no response. I checked the park, the shops, and even the riverbank where I'd found him. After hours of searching, I returned home feeling defeated and heartbroken. When I got back, I was surprised to see him sitting right outside my house. He was huddled up, looking like a lost child. My heart ached to see him like this. He looked up when he heard my footsteps, his eyes red from crying. Ashton, I said softly, approaching him. I'm sorry. He sniffled and looked away. I'm sorry too. I didn't mean to upset you. I walked over to him, my guilt overwhelming me. I shouldn't have yelled. Come inside. He stood up slowly and followed me back into the house. I helped him inside and got him settled. He sat quietly, not saying much, and I could see the sadness in his eyes. I sat down next to him, trying to explain. I'm really sorry for how I acted. I know you're confused and scared, but you need to understand that I'm not Jasper and we're not a couple. I don't know who Jasper is, and I'm just trying to help you. He nodded, still looking down. I'm sorry for making things difficult. I sighed. It's not your fault. You're going through a tough time. And I'm trying to help. Until you remember things or someone comes to look for you, you can stay here. But you'll need to help around the house and no more calling me Zhang. Jasper! Damn. His face brightened as he giggled at my mistake. I gave a small smile. Okay, just try to remember who you are and what's really going on, alright? I will, he promised. I'll try. We sat there for a while, the tension easing a bit. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but at least we had a plan, for now. All I could do was be patient and hope that his memories would come back soon. 2 days later. Okay, just mix these together. Flour, eggs, milk. It's pretty simple, I said, handing him a bowl and the ingredients. He nodded enthusiastically. Got it, Zhang. I smiled, appreciating his effort to remember my name. He started mixing the ingredients, but I quickly realized he was a bit too enthusiastic. Flour puffed up into the air, covering both of us in a fine white powder. I laughed. Hey, easy there, you're supposed to mix it, not wear it. He looked at me, his face smeared with flour, and burst out laughing. Oops, I guess I got a bit carried away. We both laughed, and I helped him clean up the mess. Despite the chaos, there was something endearing about his clumsiness. His genuine smile and the way he laughed at his own mistakes made it hard to stay frustrated. Once we managed to get the batter mixed, with a little less enthusiasm, I showed him how to pour it into the griddle. He tried his best, but a few pancakes came out in strange shapes. One looked vaguely like a heart, another like a star, and one was just a blob. Looks like we've got some artistic pancakes, I said, trying to keep a straight face. He grinned. Well, they might not be perfect, but they'll taste good, right? I nodded. Absolutely. It's the effort that counts, I said, smiling ear to ear. The next evening. I'm so sorry, Zhang. I didn't mean to, he whispered, wide-eyed and apologetic, as I helped him out of the pile of spilled beans and toppled candy jars. I held up a hand to stop him. It's okay, don't worry. Accidents happen. How could I blame him when the fault was mine? I should have never asked him to set up the inventory, knowing the way he is, I thought, laughing to myself. He knelt down, starting to pick up the mess, happy that I wasn't mad. He looked genuinely sorry, but couldn't help chuckling now. I have a talent for making a mess, don't I? I couldn't help but laugh with him. You certainly do. Come on, let's get this cleaned up. As we picked up the candy, he started making silly faces and pretending the candy pieces were little characters having a conversation. It was so ridiculous that I couldn't stop laughing. Hey, look! This one's a superhero, he said, holding up a gummy bear. And this one's the villain. I played along, making my own gummy bear voice. You'll never defeat me, gummy hero! We both ended up laughing so hard that the cleaning up took twice as long, but it didn't matter. His ability to turn even a mess into a fun moment was something I was starting to appreciate. At the end of the day, as we cleaned up the shop together, I realized how much I'd come to enjoy his presence. His mistakes didn't seem so bad when balanced with his infectious laughter and genuine effort to help. He brought a sense of lightness and fun that I hadn't realized I was missing. "Thank you for all of your help today," I said as we finished up. He smiled, looking proud of himself. "Thanks for being patient with me, Zhang. I know I'm not easy, but I'll keep trying." I patted him on the shoulder. "You're doing just fine." As we closed up the shop, I felt a sense of contentment. Life with him around was messy and unpredictable, but it was also brighter and more enjoyable. His cheerful attitude and willingness to help, despite his clumsiness, were slowly bringing a new light into my days. A couple of days later. "Smells amazing, Zhang. What are you making?" "Just a simple stir-fry," I replied, smiling. "Nothing too fancy." He grinned. "Your simple cooking is better than any fancy meal I've ever had." I chuckled, shaking my head. "You're just saying that because you're hungry." "No, I mean it," he insisted. "You're a great cook." I appreciated his enthusiasm, even if I wasn't used to receiving compliments. As I finished up the stir-fry, I plated the food and set it in front of him. He immediately dug in, his eyes lighting up as he took the first bite. "This is incredible," he said between mouthfuls. "Seriously, Zhang, you have a real talent." I watched him eat, amazed at how much he could put away despite his lean appearance. He seemed to savor every bite, making little noises of appreciation that made me smile. "You should open your own restaurant," he said suddenly, looking up at me with bright eyes. I laughed, shaking my head. "A restaurant? That's a big step." "I'm serious," he insisted. "You're really good, Zhang. People would love your food." I was touched by his words. I wasn't used to receiving such praise. Growing up, my parents had never really encouraged me or made me feel like I was enough. Hearing Ashton's genuine admiration meant more to me than he probably realized. "Thanks, Ashton," I said, feeling a bit shy. "That means a lot." He looked at me earnestly. "I'm not just saying it. You really have a gift, and you know what? I'll help you run it." I raised an eyebrow, a teasing smile playing on my lips. "Oh, really? With your track record, the place will blow up in a day." He laughed, a playful glint in his eyes. "Hey, I'm getting better. And besides, I could be the entertainment. You know, keep the customers laughing while they wait for their food." I couldn't help but laugh at that. "Well, you do have a talent for making people laugh." Ashton beamed, clearly pleased with himself. "See? It's a perfect plan." A week later. As days turned into weeks, something began to shift inside me. I found myself looking forward to seeing Ashton every day. His enthusiasm was a stark contrast to my usual brooding nature, and it started to make me see life in a new light. His smile, the way he'd chat with me about anything and everything, it all made a difference. I couldn't deny it. I was starting to develop feelings for him. "Zhang, you have to read this one," he said, his eyes sparkling. "It's about this adventurer who travels to all these different places. It's amazing." I chuckled, nodding. "I'll give it a try. You always have good recommendations." Ashton beamed, pleased with my response. He continued talking about the book, but I found myself getting lost in the moment. "Ashton," I said softly, breaking the silence, "I need to talk to you about something." He turned to look at me, sensing the seriousness in my tone. "What is it?" I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I mean, you've been calling me Jasper and acting like we're in a relationship that's based on that mistake. I don't want to hold you back or make you stay with me if you're really not into me. And what if, when you get your memory back, you realize you don't want to be with me?" Ashton took my hand and held it tightly. "I can't explain it all, but even though I thought you were Jasper at first, what I feel for you now is real. I care about you, Zhang. I care about who you are, not who you were." I wanted to believe him, but the doubt lingered. "But how can you be sure? How do we know what's real and what's just part of the confusion?" He squeezed my hand, his eyes earnest. "I may have started with confusion, but my feelings for you have grown. I know it's complicated, and I don't want to hurt you. I just want a chance to show you that my feelings are genuine." About 2 weeks later. "Yeah, no, he has no idea about my identity. He thinks I am his boyfriend, but it was all a lie. I just needed a place to stay until I could sort things out back home. My family, anyway. How's my fiance?" He talked away on the phone, not realizing I was standing behind him. The room felt like it was spinning. I stood there frozen as his words sank in. My heart pounded in my chest. All this time he'd been faking his memory loss. He used me to escape his problems, pretending to be someone he wasn't. And here he was casually discussing his real situation with someone who obviously knew more about his life. I turned to just get away from his presence. There was no way I could deal with it right now, but I stumbled against a chair and he turned around, his eyes widening as he realized what just happened. "No, Zhang, no, wait!" "No," I said, my voice cold and shaky. "I don't want to hear anything you have to say. Just get your things and leave." He tried to reason with me, but I couldn't listen. My emotions were a whirlwind, and all I wanted was to end this torment. I started throwing whatever little belongings he had out onto the lawn, making it clear that I wanted him gone. Finally, I threw him out and slammed the door shut, blocking out his desperate pleas and apologies. He banged on the door, shouting for me to open it. "Please, Zhang, I'm sorry. I love you. I want to explain. Just let me talk." But I didn't respond. I couldn't. I had to stay strong to protect myself from the pain. Eventually, his banging and shouting faded away. I heard his footsteps retreating, and the sound of his voice grew distant. I felt a mix of relief and heartbreak. I was alone again, but the emptiness felt different now, filled with the weight of betrayal. A week later, days passed and I didn't hear from him. I avoided checking my phone, trying to ignore the text messages and mixed calls that I knew would be from him. But one day, my phone rang with an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello?" "Zhang," his voice came through trembling and filled with regret. "I know you're probably not going to want to hear this, but I'm leaving town. There's nothing left for me here. I still want to apologize for everything. I'll be at the Sunshine Cafe until 6 p.m. today. If you come, I'll explain everything. If you don't, I'll accept it as my punishment and leave for good." He hung up before I could say anything. I was torn. Part of me wanted to avoid him completely, to forget everything and move on. But another part of me wanted to hear his side of the story, to understand why he did what he did. Eventually, I decided to go to the cafe. I wasn't sure what I would do, but I needed closure. I arrived there around 6 p.m., but he wasn't there, so I waited. 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. By 9 p.m., there was no sign of him. I knew he wasn't coming back. I left the cafe feeling a heavy weight on my shoulders. Maybe I wanted to see him more than I realized, but this was probably for the best. Later that night, as I approached my house, my distant neighbor came over looking concerned. "Have you heard about the accident?" they asked. I was taken aback. "What accident?" "They said a young blonde man was hit by a car not far from here. He was rushed to the hospital. It sounded like it could be that new little friend of yours." My heart skipped a beat. I hurried to the hospital, my mind racing with worry. When I arrived, I rushed to the emergency room, hoping for the best but fearing the worst. As I reached there, I saw the doctors pull the sheets over his head. "Wait! No, what are you doing?" I spoke frantically, trying to stop them. The doctors inquired if I knew the man, and I had never been more lost on a question. The truth was, I didn't know him, not at all. But as I nodded, they broke the news of his death to me with all the sympathy they could probably muster. My world crumbled. I was left standing there, shocked and numb. The grief and anger mixed with a deep sense of loss. The chance to hear his full explanation was gone forever. I stood there, staring at the sheet covering his lifeless body, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. He was gone. Ashton, the man who had stumbled into my life with his clumsy charm and infectious laughter out of nowhere, was gone, and the realization hit me. I felt my legs give way, and I sank to the cold, hard floor, unable to hold back the tears any longer. I kept replaying our last moments together in my mind. His voice, his smile, the way he always managed to make me laugh even when I was at my lowest. It was all gone, and with it, so many unanswered questions. Who was he really? What had he wanted to tell me about his past? And most painfully, had he ever truly loved me, or was it all a lie? The nurses gently tried to pull me away, but I couldn't move. I needed to stay, to be close to him, for just a little longer. My heart ached with the weight of everything left unsaid. A year later. "Ash, I could really use you here," I said aloud, half expecting Ashton to appear around the corner, laughing and offering to taste the sauce. I tossed a pinch of salt into the pot and stirred. The kitchen was filled with familiar sounds of sizzling and clinking pots. I found myself drifting back to memories of him, especially on days like this. I set a pot of pasta to boil and moved over to prep the table, as the door rang with the arrival of our first customers of the day. "Welcome to the Ashton Diner. I hope you enjoy your meal today," I said, handing out menus. One of the regulars, Mrs. Thompson, waved from her usual table. "Good morning, Zhang. Everything smells amazing as usual." I smiled back. "Morning, Mrs. Thompson. I've got a special on the menu today just for you." As I worked through the orders, my thoughts kept drifting back to Ashton. I could almost see him, standing by the counter, his face lit up with excitement. "What do you think of this dish?" I'd ask, leaning in close. "Let's taste it," he'd say, always eager for my reaction. I could hear his laughter, see his smile. "Hey, Ashton," I said quietly as I finished plating the dish. "This one's for you. I know you'd love it." "Feels a bit empty without you around," I said softly, as if he might hear. I shook my head, trying to focus on the task at hand. "But I'm making you proud, aren't I? Keeping the spirit alive." The door chimed as new customers walked in, and I quickly put on my best smile. "Welcome, table for two?" I asked, guiding them to a spot. As the day went on, the restaurant continued to fill with people enjoying their meals. I watched as they laughed and chatted, and it made me feel like I was doing something worthwhile. I paused for a moment, wiping my hands on my apron. I looked around at the lively space, the way the restaurant had come to life. "Guess I'm not doing too bad, huh?" I said, a smile tugging at my lips. "You'd be proud of how this place is doing." It was bittersweet running the restaurant, but it was also a way to remember Ashton, to keep his memory alive. Every meal served, every smile from a customer, it all felt like a little piece of him was still here, making the world a bit brighter. After the accident, I learned about his family because of the police investigation. I went to his funeral and honestly, I was shocked. His family was incredibly rich, way beyond anything I ever imagined. At the funeral, I met his supposed fiancée who seemed to know me. She looked sad and told me something that hit me hard. It turned out his family was forcing him to marry her. They had found out he was gay, and they couldn't accept that. They saw it as a shame on their family name. To avoid a painful forced marriage, he had run away and been living in secret. When she told me that she had been in touch with him all the while he was with me, I could think of asking just one thing, to which she replied, "I can't say for sure whether he loved you or not, but I know one thing. With you, he was the happiest he had ever been in his life." To me, that was enough. The end. Can you forgive someone's lie if you love them? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.